Hey, what's up, comic fans? We're here to give you a kind of our take on Ten of Swords or X of Swords, as some people have called it, but I'm pretty sure it's Ten of Swords. Uh, I don't know. It's whatever you want it to be, right?
Yeah, it's comics. It can be whatever you want.
Right. We spent money on it. Call it whatever we want. So anyway, we just want to go over some of the things about it, give it a little review. Some people loved it, some people hate it, some people were like me. So yeah. Let's delve right into it. Let's make this a quick one.
Yeah.
So, Eric, what did you think of it? What do you think of Ten of Swords?
I think overall, I think it was a nice sort of culmination of a year's worth of the Krakoa storytelling. I think what Hickman really did well here was bringing all of these teams together in a way that really felt like a cohesive story, not just sort of like, here's this thing that's happening, and here's only what's happening in this one book here, and here's what's only happening in this one book here. There's a lot of crossover, a lot of just interesting ways of playing with the continuity, and I feel like every writer and every artist was all really on point in sort of bringing this together in a really uh, in a way that made stylistic sense and told a really compelling overall narrative. So
Yeah, I think it was quite the feat if you think about it.
yeah,
But yeah, 5 or 6 different writers on this, all telling a story in 22 parts.
yeah.
So, with I'm assuming Hickman was the main brain behind this, but
Yeah, it helps when you have sort of one person steering the ship. But I mean, between him and Teeny Howard and everybody else, like they're all pumping it out and in a way that just everything makes sense together.
yeah, no, it was quite the undertaking. I think when I saw it was 22 parts, I was like, damn. But then I realized that it was all contained primarily in the X-Men books. So it wasn't
Yeah,
like you had to go and buy like a ton of tie-ins. It was 22 parts that you knew what you were getting. And if you were already a fan or in the X-Men, buying the X-Men books already, it was part of the deal.
yeah. I would be interested though to see sort of the crossovers can always kind of be a pain in the ass if you're only reading like one of those books, you don't actually care, and like so you just have your normal story interrupted. I'd be interested if there was somebody who's just like, I'm just reading Marauders and I don't give a shit about anything else. How what that did to sort of your reading for that period of time. Like did it enrich it in any way? Did it make you have to go out and buy 20 more issues of things? I don't know.
I was definitely one of the people who was only reading Marauders and then had to go buy 21 other books.
See, I was reading everything. I'd cut off cable. I was sort of like meh about it, and so I wound up then having to read cable because it played into it. So that was the
Funny
other
thing,
side of the spectrum.
funny thing, if you go look at the first part, the first issue that Cable is part of the Ten of Swords series, the Cable title is like yay big, and then it's like Ten of Swords on the book.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they were like, see you later, Cable. I don't even think Marvel actually was
yeah,
still thought Cable was part of the equation.
yeah.
All right, so let's we said what we liked about it. Was there anything you disliked about Ten of Swords?
You know, I'm not sure if this is a dislike as much as what I am frustrated by often is when expectations are established and then they aren't paid off on. And so it seemed like so much about this felt like it was being set up like a Tekken tournament or something like that. It was like, here are your combatants and they're going to fight to the death and blah blah blah. And then it just turned into this wackadoo fucking thing. And I'm like, yeah, like on the one hand, I was sort of intrigued by the subversion of expectations, but it was just booked so hard as being like deathmatch. This is what we're doing. That it was really a difficult thing to sort of rejigger my mind and say, okay, so this is something different. We're not doing that. And the overarching sort of story with Araco and all the other, big good versus evil thing, like that then made sense. Uh, but yeah, that was a tough sort of reconfiguration I had to do. And and I feel like Saturnine is sort of the overall warlord of all of this. She, she can be a compelling character. I feel like this was a little reductive for her. That was just like, oh, I want to be with Brian Braddock, and so I'm going to make everybody fight to the death. It's like, there's got to be something more compelling for her than just being this like lovelorn person. She's so powerful and she's so potentially interesting. To have it just be boiled down to just like, I want the guy that I can't have, is like, really, that's
Yeah.
the best you got. Like,
Yeah, some of that did come across as petty. Well, all
yeah,
of it.
yeah. Although it was pretty badass moment though when she goes back in to reconfigure all the pieces and was like, "This is the Captain Britain that's coming. It's gonna be Brian Braddock." Nope, it's Betsy.
Yeah.
Well done.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you, yeah, I think like you said, there was like all this hype about one thing, and then you got something that was totally different towards the end. And they really did raise the stakes, only to have those stakes not even matter in some
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah,
it was
totally.
like, oh, look at these, look what could possibly happen. And I was like, yeah, but you know what? Meh. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But
But in doing that, it did give some great moments for character development and character spotlighting that like we might not have gotten otherwise. There's some fantastic magic moments, which is, that's my girl. Even like Cypher winds up actually becoming an interesting character, which
right.
is really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
I did enjoy the apocalypse aspect of it. I thought he became a big part of the second half of the story.
for
Yeah.
sure, yeah, and it's interesting because I'm not usually very interested in Apocalypse. I don't find him to be a particularly compelling character. But I think this giving him sort of a more domestic and kind of more human element to it, like this boiled down to just being like, well, I have a shitty family, like
Right.
gonna have to deal with that. You know, and boiling it down to that fight between him and Genesis and his choice to ultimately, you know, leave Krakoa, spoilers, leave Krakoa and you know, begin this new life again, wound up being interesting. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of into Apocalypse now. That's cool. Because up until then, I was just like, I was so over it. I mean, they're playing the sort of Mr. Sinister manipulative cards so much in Excalibur that I was like, okay, I'm over this. But this was an interesting piece of character development for him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it made me actually care about Apocalypse more than I have at any time.
Yeah.
It definitely gave him more of, even though he's quite literally like the mutant, gave him more of a humanistic aspect. It definitely humanized him.
Yeah.
And I think that might be part of the problem people are having with this is like you got one thing in the first half and you got something totally different in the second half. But if you boil it down, it really, like, this is almost like a love story. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's
totally.
like love rejected and love regained, I guess, or love found.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two pieces of it. And I don't think that's what people were coming here for.
No, we're not expecting a nuanced parallel romance story between Saturnine and Apocalypse. No, we came here thinking that people were going to be beating each other up with swords.
Right. And there was so much hype around these swords, and some of them barely made an appearance.
That's, yeah, I think if there's one sort of rubbing that we can give to this is that this series could have been probably half as long because we had at least 8 issues, which was nothing but let's go get those swords that are going to be completely meaningless moving forward. So yeah, I appreciate that they committed to the bit, but when the bit doesn't have a payoff, it seems a little empty.
Yeah, I like, it was maybe like the first 10 or 9 issues were all about the swords.
Yeah.
And then the swords were pretty used. Though at the end of, and let me just say right now, and I'll probably put it somewhere in the description, I did not promise that this would be spoiler free. So, but at the end of the whole story, they did give us like a little page synopsis of where the swords end up, who they're with, that kind of thing. So we can only assume that in Hickman's universe, these things will pop up eventually at some point.
Yeah, and even the like Hellions issues, which seem sort of completely ancillary to everything else. Like there are things established in those moments that are going to wind up being important moving forward.
Right.
So it's definitely clear that Hickman's got a much larger plan in place for what's going to happen with Krakoa. I mean, even just one of the best like balls out moment in this series was finally the X-Men showing up and being the X-Men, like saying like, deuces Krakoa, like we're gonna go do our thing, which is be the X-Men, which is like take care of people because fuck your government, fuck your whatever. It's like this is what we do. We're heroes. We're gonna save people. So that is going to be something that they have to contend with too. Like, what is the status of the X-Men, against the Council and against these relationships that Krakoa has with the world at large. So
that was a great moment too when the X-Men showed up, because you're like, oh, it's like Cyclops and Jean Grey, and then you see the sheer number of them.
Yeah, there was a lot of eye candy in those things, like all those like, oh, I know that person. Yeah, see everybody showing up. And also like the great moment of like the council voting against the X-Men, and it's just like Magneto and Professor X are voting against them, but watching them go.
Yeah. You got this.
It's nice
Under the table high five.
Yeah.
Great moment. Yeah, I think so. I think part of what we're saying though is like it's worth a read. It's definitely going to set up a lot of stuff, even the superfluous stuff, the like Hellions. I think that's setting up for like another story down the road. It may just happen, like it might just be the next story. Boom. Yeah. Right. The next thing happening, next arc. But I think what we're saying is that this story is definitely worth a read. It sets up a lot of stuff. It is good. It's well done. I think the writings is across the board is excellent. The artwork is really good. I don't feel at any moment I was like, oh, this sucks. But you're not going to get, what you signed up for is probably not what you're getting at the end.
Yeah, temper expectations.
Yeah. So, we can keep talking about this after this, but like, let's give it a grade, like on a scale of, let's use the CGC grade, right? Why not? Everybody does that. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are you thinking?
Give it a 9.2.
Not bad.
It's definitely above average. There's some unavoidable flaws. Put it that way. A couple spine ticks.
There you go. I would give it I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna go 9.4. It's almost like that kind of 9.6 you want, but not quite. There's some things missing, but overall it's a really nice book. Presents really well. Presents so well that when you sent it in, you might have thought it was a 9.8. But when you got it back, it was just a 9.4, just a little bit disappointing. But still, overall, awesome.
Yeah, still, better to have
hanging on your wall
than nothing.
Exactly. All right, so you got anything final to say?
Nah, I think that's it. Check it out if you're into Hickman. If you're not, then still check it out because it might make you a believer. Go back and read some of the other stuff.
Yeah, what I will give credit for is that it was not as super dense as I was expecting. I was like,
yes, as his stuff goes, this was a breeze to read. Yeah, right, for sure.
It was a fun read. And then when I saw 22 parts of it, I was like, oh gosh, like I was like, I'm gonna need like 2 months. I'm gonna set aside every other book to read it, and it actually wasn't that. It was definitely a fun book. It was a fun read.
Yeah.
So that's all you can. It's comics. That's all we can hope for is when you pick up that book, you have a good time with it, and I that's what I had.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're at this point, maybe wait until the trade comes out so you can drop $20-25 on it instead of dropping $80 on
right.
all the floppies.
All the floppy, right? And there were a few of those books actually became keys or specs. So you're gonna drop a pretty penny just on like 2 or 3 of those issues. So yeah, like Eric said, get the trade, and if you're fancy, get the hardcover. Yeah, there you go. All right, so thank you for joining Eric and I as we gave you our 10 of Swords little review and preview. but we didn't promise you no spoilers. So there are a teeny amount of spoilers in there. So somehow you skipped to this part and didn't watch any of the
That's
rest of it.
just weird. That's on you.
Yeah. All right. So peace out. Eric, say peace to everybody. Or bye.
Peace.